The Oppo Find X3 Pro is one of the best smartphones in 2021. On top of being stunningly unique, it packs in some of the coolest features, most powerful internal hardware, and has a price tag to match it. Join us in checking out Oppo's latest flagship smartphone in today's video. We've already written 2 reviews on the Find X3 Pro, so do check out those reviews in the link in the video description, which will take you to the articles on androidauthority.com. I don't want to say what's already been said, so check out those written reviews for a deeper look. Today I want to focus on some more general impressions and a closer look at the cameras. The Find X3 Pro is a flagship and unapologetically so at £1,099. This is out to compete with the iPhone 12 Pro, the Galaxy S21 Ultra, and the Mate 40 Pro if you count it without the Google apps. Those are some big boy shoes to fill, but last year's Find X2 Pro cost the same and it still competed with the big players, so not much has changed there. It's a pricey phone, but you get what you pay for. This is one of the most well-made packages in the high-end smartphone space. You get a stunning design with a camera bump that's been curved and smoothed into the rest of the glass back. This isn't something that we've seen before and it does look really good, and around the front the screen has also been curved into the rails. You get all of this elegance with IP68 water and dust resistance, USB-C 3.1, hybrid stereo speakers and dual SIM support. The only real gripe in the build department for me is the slightly weak vibration motor. This is something that we've seen on previous Oppo devices and I'm not sure if it's really ever going to go away anytime soon, but it's just something to note here compared to something like an iPhone or a Pixel. Those devices tend to have really good vibration motors. That big, beautiful 6.7-inch Quad HD Plus LTPO AMOLED 120Hz display is just incredible. It's got everything you'd want: high refresh rate, high resolution, high brightness, and brilliant contrast. This thing looks gorgeous whether you're scrolling through text, checking Instagram, playing games, or even watching a film. The only real issue I have with the display is that it's huge and my hands aren't that big, so ergonomically it was a bit of a struggle for me, and it might be for you if you've got smaller hands, but other than that, it's just a stunning panel. Performance isn't an issue for the Find X3 Pro either. I couldn't get it to bog down even with loads of apps open and quickly switching between them. In its high performance mode, it's one of the fastest smartphones out there thanks to its use of a Snapdragon 888 processor and 8 or 12 GB of RAM. In its default mode, it's not quite as quick, but is instead more power efficient, which means that you're going to get better battery life. Speaking of which, the Find X3 Pro's battery life is impressive. I didn't get enough time with the device to extensively test it, but I got well over a day's usage, and both of our reviews corroborate this. Simply put, if you're a heavy user, expect just over a day's use, and if you're a lighter user, expect maybe even 2 days of use out of the 4500 mAh cell here. The 65 watt and 30 watt wired and wireless charging respectively are very competitive. The former will charge the device from 0 to 100 in 31 minutes, which is incredibly fast. Sure, the charger is a little large, but so it should be for charging at this speed. There is a bit of an asterisk on that though, and that is that you have to use the official SuperVOOC 2 charger to get any kind of fast charging whatsoever. So even if you've got a third-party 20 watt brick, it's not going to charge at 20 watts unfortunately. It's limited to just under 10 watts, which means it's going to take multiple hours to charge the battery as opposed to, half an hour. That's going to be a real bummer for long-term users and those who travel with their phone, who are going to be using in-car chargers and portable battery banks because you can't charge at the highest speed there. We have to talk about the cameras because this was one of the brighter points of the Find X2 Pro. Oppo has changed quite a lot for the X3 Pro. The periscope zoom is now nowhere to be seen due to the unique curved glass design. It just wasn't able to be fit in there. And this also means that you're stuck with a 13 megapixel 3x optical telephoto with a 5x hybrid mode. Alongside that though is a particularly quirky feature, the 3 megapixel micro lens. Now this thing is essentially a 3 megapixel camera with a super macro lens attached to it. There's a ring light around the outside to illuminate close subjects, and I mean really close, you have to be within 3mm of the subject to get an in-focus shot. This can make usage very tricky as there's no stabilization here and you can't simply place the camera on top of the object, otherwise it's not going to be illuminated, so that would be an issue too. It's both really cool and a massive gimmick. After a few days, I can't imagine you'll be using it all that much. It's a pretty cool feature and it's something to show off to your friends, but it's really not that useful. Next to that camera are 2 fantastic 50 megapixel custom IMX766 sensors designed specifically for the Find X3 Pro. These are both physically large at 1/1.56 inches, but also in resolution at 50 million pixels a pop. They are ultra-wide and standard lenses using exactly the same sensor, which is phenomenal because it gives you almost the same image quality across both lenses. And around the front is a 32 megapixel selfie shooter. The two main cameras are a stunning example of why more phone makers should use the same sensor in the main camera as the ultra-wide. The ultra-wide shots look every bit as good as those from the main shooter in colour, contrast, details and sharpness, and this is something that I've personally wanted for a long time. Exposure is probably the most standout negative from the Find X3 Pro's cameras. It does like to overexpose quite a lot, and the HDR feature is a bit too aggressive, resulting in some unnatural looking photos at times. This isn't bad enough to put me off the phone, but it's definitely something to watch if you're a prospective buyer. Low light photos are alright for a flagship. They're good and usable, but by no means the best of any flagship smartphone. The night mode brings up exposure properly, but images can look a bit smudgy and they do lack detail. This is more likely due to Oppo's processing than the hardware stack. Selfies look pretty good from the Find X3 Pro too. Images look sharp and detailed, but you're unable to use HDR and portrait mode at the same time, which means that if you want a blurry background, it could end up pretty washed out, which kind of negates the need to make selfies pretty. The Find X3 Pro's Ultra HD video looks pretty decent. It can get pretty grainy in low light conditions, but Oppo's Ultra Steady Pro option handily removes a lot of the shake from videos, and there's Pro mode too for those who are interested in adjusting ISO, shutter speed and colour profiles when shooting video. As I said right at the start of this video, the Find X3 Pro is one of the best smartphones on the market. It's got a superb screen, brilliant performance, a stunning camera setup, but it's not the best by any means. It doesn't top the charts in every single category. That said, for £1,099, I do believe it actually matches that price tag. Once again, if you'd like to check out the full reviews of this smartphone, please do check out the links in the video description to take you to the originals by Rob Triggs and Eric Zeman. And that concludes today's video, guys. Do let us know in the comments if you think that dropping the periscope camera was worth it to add that kind of micro lens thing. Which one would you use more often? Let us know in the comments. Whilst you're down there, please do hit like and subscribe to never miss a video like this one. I've been Ryan Thomas with Android Authority, and I'll catch you later.